Hey y'all, Dr. Charlie here. Today I'm going to wait. Before we get to that, let's take 3 deep breaths together. Let's start the session with that. So let's take a deep breath in and out. Breath in, out, and one more time. Breathe in. Okay, now I'm ready to begin. Today, I want to talk to you about stress patterns versus patterns of wellness. What we just did, those 3 deep breaths, those have been a pattern of wellness for me. And I talked about in a different video how I did that in 1 year. I did that 3 times. So 3 deep breaths 3 times in a week. And I got to the end of that year and was remarkably unstressed. And that was the only thing I could figure out that was different. But there's other things. I was in a conversation recently with one of my girlfriends, and I'm kind of like, right now, I'm kind of like in a hustle mode for a variety of reasons. And I'm a recovering workaholic, and I'm going to own recovering. And it's always a challenge to like really not go back to being a workaholic. That is a fairly natural tendency for me. And so that's a stress pattern though, being a workaholic. Sometimes it used to be dairy. I figured out that it wasn't food specifically, it was dairy, and it wasn't sweets. Although I might say I need ice cream. Really ice cream or macaroni and cheese or pizza or mozzarella sticks. So it was dairy, and hot cheese was great. But that was also a stress pattern for me. Patterns of wellness look like deep breaths. Baking, I call baking my spiritual practice, and it's also my stress practice. So baking, when I am frustrated and can't get something done, or things are not feeling completed, I will bake. I'll bake something, and because it is, first of all, edible, but it's also me completing something. It's me going from start to finish and having an outcome that's very tangible. So it's a spiritual practice and a stress practice. I enjoy it when other people are, eating my food that I've baked, or eating food that I've made or baked. So really figuring out what your patterns of wellness are. How do you feel well? When do you feel well? What are you doing? And perhaps noticing your stress patterns. I would guess that your stress patterns may be more prevalent in your life, and they also may be more unknown to you in your life. Both can be cultivated. I certainly was cultivating my stress patterns for a very long time, and still do sometimes. And it takes a lot more active effort to cultivate my wellness patterns. Other wellness patterns for me are going for a walk. I'm in the desert. I struggle here in the desert because in summertime, I expect to be outside a lot of the time, and I'm just not, because it's just so hot during the day. I get excited when it's 90 degrees instead of 115, and that is something that my body adjusted ridiculously quickly to. 90 feels cool. 90 feels like, oh, I can go out and do something outside. Water, I've always been a big water drinker. And people used to ask me when I was a teenager and in my 20s, your skin is so clear. That has nothing to do. What do you use? It had nothing to do with anything I was using. I really just drank a lot of water, even more in the desert. That's also a pattern of wellness for me. Connecting with people. I talked in a different video about the importance of connection and connecting with people. I'm really just giving you mine. I'm giving you these as examples because I would ideally love to see you take a look at what yours are. Like maybe it's making a list. It doesn't have to be a physical written out list. It can be a verbal list, something you just come up with in your head. So drinking water, taking walks, connecting with people in the sense of, I really love going to lunch with people or having tea with people. Those are practices that I cultivate. It's usually one-on-one for me, and it's usually kind of a specific person, a specific thing or place. I remember in Atlanta, 2 of the people who were newer to my life at the time, we both went to coffee shops. We went to very different coffee shops. Actually, one was a tea shop and the other was a coffee shop where we had tea. but two very separate relationships. So take a look at what your stress patterns are. It might be yelling, it might be being really defensive, it might be eating, it might be exercising. And exercising can certainly work on both ends. All of those can work on both ends. But really pay attention to, what do you do when you're stressed? And is it something you want to be doing? If it is, sure. If it's not, can you figure out either something else to do or figure out a new way to do the thing that you're doing? So baking works for me in that way. I also work with baking as the example. I work sometimes if it doesn't have a place to go that's outside of my house, I won't necessarily bake. And that's actually a pattern of wellness for me, so that I don't, for instance, eat a whole batch of brownies. I can, and I have, and that's how I know that I can. And that may not be supporting my wellness as much as I would want it to be. So really taking a look at those things that you do when you're stressed, and either naming or cultivating new patterns of wellness as well. All right, y'all, take great care. I will check in with you again soon. Bye now.